Today's video is a little bit different from the usual ones. I'm going to show you my workflow to Vide coding. This is how I've built apps like ClickUp to Sheets, Save to ClickUp, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how I'm currently rebuilding the Upsys website only with code, but without much experience into coding. And this is called vibe coding. It's the current trend of using LLMs to be able to generate code for you inside of a coding environment. So for context, I have a background as a product manager. Before I was setting ClickUp for agencies and businesses, I used to work with developers into building web products. So I know what an API is, what code looks like, and I can understand basic algorithmics. But I have zero experience coding, and that's a disclaimer because I've been working on Save to ClickUp and ClickUp to Sheets with very little experience coding. All I know about is how to build systems that give context to AI and how to be able to interact with AI properly and kind of gauge if it's going in the right or the wrong direction. So with these boundaries, I'm able to create user-ready apps. And so far, I've been moving forward on this brand new website for Upsys that's a lot more lightweight and kind of like conveys the message of our agency better. I feel like it's funnier, it's easier to navigate. And I've been doing all of this with AI and has much cooler animations, like it lets you hover over all kinds of stuff, shows our process. Now it's still work in progress, but in today's video, I want to show you how I've been working on this and what's my workflow to iterate over all of these advancements and progress on our website. And I've been building all of this using Claude Code. Claude Code is kind of the state of the art of vibe coding nowadays. Let's say it's the best value for money solution to create apps and websites using only prompts to AI. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I use Claude Code, how to install it, how to set your file trees, and select a tech stack and start vibe coding. Before we get started, I want to disclaim something. This is not advice into creating production-ready sensitive apps. I think AI is not mature enough to solely be able to create secure production-ready apps for very sensitive information. I've been doing this because I have experience into AI. I know how to read code. I've been advised by friends who are developers. They had reviews out of my code before I pushed it, especially for Save to ClickUp and ClickUp to Sheets. So on top of vibe coding, I've been working with humans that actually know their stuff about coding. So if you want to enter the whole realm of vibe coding, you need to first make sure that you master the basics of coding or you have someone next to you that knows about it. But in this example, we're building a website, and usually websites are less sensitive than apps because the most sensitive thing you might do is capture user information through email forms, and you don't have any like secure authentication to handle or customer data to handle. People are just going on your website, you're exposing them, stuff about your company, a blog maybe, but it's not super sensitive. Now, because of that, I advise you to start with an actual website if you want to start with vibe coding. And that's why I used this example. I didn't use Save to ClickUp or ClickUp to Sheets or the apps we've built at Upsys. And if you want to start with a website, the best tech stack to pick, in my opinion, is using React and Next.js. So React and Next.js are two coding frameworks that are very popular. And for that reason, AI and Claude knows very well how to use them. They know about the syntax, they know about how to write code using those languages. And I recommend you to use popular languages rather than super obscure languages because it's going to be easier for you to debug. And each time you're going to go in front of a bug, either Claude will take care of it and fix it, or you can look up online and there's going to be a big community around that product so that you're able to easily find a solution for that specific coding framework. Once you've picked your framework, you can go for a CMS if you want to have a blog. So this is adding another layer of complexity. Now, if I go on my website here, all of this is React and Next.js. But because there's going to be a blog, and for now it's empty, there's only one single article that we have here that's coming from our older website, you're going to need a CMS. And there's a reputable open source CMS called Payload. Payload is a CMS that's compatible with Next.js. It's actually built upon Next.js, and it lets you easily add CMS features. If you don't know what CMS stands for, it means Content Management System. So it basically creates an intuitive UI, kind of like what you can see here, that lets a member of your team edit, update blogs without having to enter lines of code. So it's a bridge between the code that you have that can be written here and a UI that lets you update and edit blog articles, for example. And it looks like this. So we're in the CMS of Upsys right now, and you can see we have an article of ClickUp versus Notion, and we have a bunch of stuff here. This is all something that someone that has zero experience coding was able to just copy and paste from our previous blog and prepare the upcoming new blog with the content. They didn't have to write a single line of code. They can write kind of like in a Word document and publish the changes if they're happy. So it's a solution that lets them handle the blog stuff. And on my end, I can just use Claude Code to code the rest of the pages, like the homepage, the ClickUp page, and all the pages of the website that do not need human intervention for content. Each time I want to change content, I can just go in the code and prompt Claude and ask it to change some wording or something. But for the blog, you do need a CMS. And for that reason, I added that to the stack. So now back to the rest of the stack, there's ShadCN and Magic UI. These are called components libraries. So a component library is kind of a Lego block library that you can pick Lego cubes from and then bring in all of those Lego cubes together for you to have a clean layout on your web page. For example, this card is kind of a Lego block for that whole web page, and a component library has already built this card, so I don't have to do it myself. Kind of a way to save time on writing what you would see on a website. So here's one of the most popular component libraries. It's called ShadCN, and it lets you basically have pre-built blocks, kind of like what you can see here, and you can see here in the block section and component section, so that you just save yourself time from coding those by yourself. And you can just copy them or import them straight into your coding software. It's called an IDE. So bring in that straight into your IDE like VS Code or Cursor and have them appear up as a file that you can use in your website. So notice how this card is very similar to the one I have here in my website. At the corners, the shadows, this is all coming from ShadCN UI. And obviously you can style things the way you want. So I could have changed the corners, the colors, the shadow. For example, you can have a specific component that gives like some cool effect in here. So let's have a look at this one. It's in here. And if I hover, you can see there's this subtle, cool, like border beam effect. So all of this is something you can code yourself and add on top of an existing pre-built component, or use more animation libraries. So on top of ShadCN, I've used another animation library called Magic UI. It's a modern library as well and lets you kind of add colors, beams, cool stuff around your buttons, and have a cool button like this, for example. So all of these cool interactions and animations and Lego blocks, let's say, they do come from component libraries. And having a tech stack like React and Next.js, a CMS, and a component library to rely on is more than enough to get started to build an advanced website using a blog. And here's the thing, you don't even need those two if you wanted. You could totally handle it with React and Next.js. And if you don't even need a blog, Payload CMS is useless. So I'm showing you what I needed to create my own website with a blog. I'm going to take a break here because I know this is already quite technical. And if this sounds too technical for you, I obviously advise you to go for more beginner-friendly courses and tutorials on coding if you're interested about vibe coding. This is intermediary level, and this is for someone that has already experience with coding and has a website project that is just taking the dust in some Word document or file and they want to get started with. So I'm just here to help you ramp up on the experience you already have with coding and how to leverage AI for it. So once you've done that, once you have picked your stack, it's time to set your file tree and set a project in your local computer, in your local environment. And to do so, you're going to use an IDE. So an IDE is a development environment built on your laptop that you can work on locally and then deploy, so launch online whenever you need it. So what I do is that basically I have an environment on my laptop, and once I'm happy with what I've built, I push it to a website called Vercel. Vercel is kind of a popular hosting website. So that means that when I'm working locally, you can see the URL localhost 3000. But that website, as soon as I'm happy, it goes to Vercel. And let's show you how it looks. I'm in Vercel right now, and that's my project. So each time I finished working locally, which I'll show you later, it pops up in here and you can have a thumbnail. So if we go to this URL, we open it up, we can see that the website is already here. So now it's a little bit different from what you'll see in my local environment because there's a lot of stuff that I've worked on and improved. You can see this page is pretty ugly compared to the new one that we have in here that's more cool and modern. So there's been some progress, but this is basically fully online and accessible to anyone on the internet, and this is local. And to interact with this local version, I use an IDE called Cursor. So an IDE looks like this. You'll have a space here in the middle where you can just see your code. So if we were to go to an actual code file, you can see it in here. So you can see the code and you can see how it looks. In here, you have access to like issue fixing and a terminal that lets you actually interact with Claude Code, which I'll show you. And in here, you have a sidebar that's actually Cursor, Cursor being already a tool that lets you use AI to code, but I prefer using Claude Code inside the terminal rather than Cursor because the prices are more competitive and the quality of the output is way better in my opinion. With that said, that's my whole setup, that's my whole environment. I'm going to show you the file tree. So because I love systems, I've obviously built a file tree built around the prompting and the vibe coding system. And that's the most important part of this video. We're going to have to set up our file tree into our IDE. So that's the IDE and that's the file tree. So in here you have a folder called Claude. In here you have a bunch of other folders and you have one called SRC in here. I'm going to focus on the most important ones, which are the Claude and the SRC folders. So SRC is basically where your code is. It's where your web pages are. So if we go here, for example, there's a folder that's in here. It's called front end. And in here you have the different pages. So for example, there is a page around ClickUp and it's in its own folder in here. There's another one around the ClickUp auditing services we offer, ClickUp coaching, ClickUp consultant, and all of this are on the website and they are standalone in their own folder in the SRC folder. So this is where the code lives. But because we're vibe coding, we're adding an extra folder called the Claude folder. In here, we have a folder called Claude and we have a bunch of subfolders which I'll present. First, we have the claude.nd file. It's a markdown file, so it's basically like a text file that gives context about the whole project. You're basically adding context and explaining the large language model, what this whole project is about, and what's the website structure, what we do, and just basically the overall architecture. And then you have a bunch of other folders. So you have a steering folder. In steering, we have information about our components. So this is kind of like the building blocks that I've told you about. And we document this. So we create documentation. Here are our components. Then we have information about our content. I don't want to use these words that sound like AI, for example. Here about the design. So for example, we use a certain typography, certain colors, certain fonts, and all of this is specified here, which font to use, which size to use, how to navigate, and all kinds of stuff. And then we have product. So this explains what Upsys is about. We are evolving from ClickUp focused consulting firm into a boutique systems agency built around 3 strategic pillars: architecture, ClickUp, automations, make.com, and AI agents. The website serves as a primary conversion engine, positioning Upsys as a go-to partner for turning messy agencies into precise delivery machines. So this is basically explaining the context, giving context about our business, about what we do at Upsys. And obviously this website is an opportunity to reposition Upsys. And that's why I've been reworking it, because I believe at Upsys, we don't only set up ClickUp. And a lot of clients came up to us and told us, do you also set up automations? Do you also help us connect this specific software with that other software? Can we just connect HubSpot with our invoicing tool? Things like that. And we answer yes, because we know how to do it. We know how to use Make. So most of the automations we do are linked to ClickUp, but it might happen that we connect Frame.io with another tool, Frame.io being a video feedback tool. So we do all those kinds of connections that are not necessarily about ClickUp, and that's what I want to convey in our offer. And finally, we started working on AI agents. Obviously, there's the AI revolution coming in. So we started building agents that take client briefs and turn them into content generation or turn them into image generation for our production agencies clients, for our ads agencies clients. So we've started to create AI content systematically and automatically through the help AI agents. So we've started to add that to our offer as well. So now we've built Upsys on 3 pillars, and that's the ones I've showcased here. We set up the organization and the architecture for our clients. We build templates and processes for our clients, and then we help them set up AI and automation. It's kind of like a progression in levels of maturity of your systems. So first off, you're gonna have a base setup, an organization, an architecture, and that's the software, that's ClickUp. And then we're gonna add another layer, which is templates and processes. So we're gonna make sure that you have templates and pre-built processes that are documented and that add fail-safe systems to your team so that they can execute those tasks and so that you can delegate easily. And the last level of maturity, let's say, is AI and automation. So we're going to see what we can automate. We're going to see what is repetitive to your team. And we're going to see if a software or AI can handle it for you. Now, obviously, sometimes there's a human in the loop, but you have no idea the wonders that AI can do to just like chunk up some data, chunk up some work, chunk up some content, and just prepare the work for your team. So fully automating or even semi-automating everything with AI or automations through make.com is what we do as well. And we see some huge benefits and gains for our clients by doing this. So these kind of 3-pillar philosophy system, I want to convey more in the new Upsys website. And that's why I've been reworking it. And we've been splitting our offers between ClickUp, automation, and AI agents. And that's what I talk about in this product document. And that's what I talk about in this website architecture in here as well. So you can see there's a bunch of information. There's also the directory structure that we have here, the tech stack that we have here. So you have a bunch of information and context that we're giving to the agent, that we're giving to Claude for it to work properly. That's part of the steering area. Now there's other subfolders that I've added. I've added one called specs. What this folder does is that it lists all the features that I need in my website, like building the blog homepage, building a course page, building a lead magnet page, and everything we've done, like building a call page and everything. So if you take the example of building a homepage, we have 3 sub-documents. One that's kind of like the design, what we want to do, the requirements, so what we need to achieve, and the different tasks, and if we've done them or not. We've actually done that, so all of this should be checked. If we look in here, for example, as you can see, some of the stuff is checked here. You can see the completed status. And these Markdown files are kind of a way to track the progress on the website. And on top of that, there's a project progress tracker document. It's a single document that tracks the progress of the overall website and just puts a percentage out of 100% for me to just quickly glimpse at this and have a look at it. And what I've instructed Claude to do is that each time it finishes a task that we've instructed it to do, it's going to go in here and it's going to update the progress document. And after I've shown you all of that system, I'm going to show you how I actually create new features and request Claude to do it. And you're going to see the specs folder being updated. You're going to see the progress document being updated. To instruct Claude how to do all of this, we have the command folder. So the command folder adds a bunch of commands that we can trigger into Claude to tell him, okay, so I want you to add a feature, or I want you to list the features we have, or I want you to start a specific tasks. And this is becoming super interesting because you can make your AI do whatever you want for you with the right boundaries. You can make it very agentic, kind of like an employee that you're giving instructions to. You're giving it a process to act as an AI. And obviously we're applying this to code, but you can apply this to basically anything. You could generate content for you. It could analyze documents for you. It could create audits, comparison, files. It could create images for you just with the right instructions, with the right comments. So comments are a way to kind of give boundaries and specific tasks to your agent. And my last point is specific to my project, but you can have a look at it if you want to. It's the audit and the pages folders. If you're working on a website, it's cool to have a pages folders where you're gonna just add instructions on what to do, what to work on, and track the pages that you've done and the ones that you haven't. So it's kind of an overlap with the specs one, but I found it useful to have that in a separate area. And then the specs one is more around features. Like, for example, if we want to migrate from Webflow to Next.js, which we're working on because we have to bring the old blog to the new one. Whereas pages is more of a page tracking. So in here, the lines are blurred between the pages folder and the specs folder, but I recommend you to have a specs folder for everything feature based and the page folder to track your web page development progression. So this is specific to building a website, but if you're building an app, sticking with a specs folder is more than enough. You don't need the pages folder. And finally, the audit folder is just a way to store my audits. Because every time I do big progress on the app, what I do is I create audits. So I ask for it to audit and to rate out of 10 our code implementation, and to also give a list of the highest priority of what we have to fix. So it's able to prioritize and improve constantly the website. It tells me what's high impact. We need to improve the SEO, for example. We need to improve how we handle components or web pages. And every time the code starts to become a bit spaghetti and become a bit of a mess, I run an audit, and then I use that audit report to feed it into Claude for it to just optimize and improve and fix and clean the code. So it's kind of like an infinite feedback loop of coding, auditing, improving through the audit results. So that way you're sure that you give boundaries to your system. And having such a system makes vibe coding possible. Because if you just go into Claude and just tell him, hey, please create a button that does this and that, and you don't track that you've created the button, and you don't audit that the button has been created in a state-of-the-art way, you're going to be sure that your code is going to become a mess very, very quickly. Whereas if you do that and you track your progress, you kind of always giving context to the AI, and you can reference files and remind the AI of the work it's done before, because the AI will obviously forget. Now, this is my system around vibe coding, and I've been improving it. I've been making it better and better over time, but this is the state of how it is today. It can be updated, it can be improved, but I just love bringing my knowledge of systems, which is usually project and task systems, into coding for fun and for the business, obviously. Now, take your time to build a Claude folder that works for you, but starting with a steering folder that summarizes everything, a specs folder that kind of shows the features that you have to work on, and some commands to create a new task or iterate on a new feature. And what I might do is actually use this framework and create a template out of it and put it into GitHub. That way you can just download it from GitHub, bring it into your project, and start vibe coding with Claude. If you're interested about that, you can leave a comment down below, and I might update the description with some project that you can just bring in and just apply to your own project. So let me know if it makes sense. Let me know if I should just create templates out of all those markdown files and out of all this Claude folder. Now, this system, just as a disclaimer, is inspired by what Amazon has done with Cairo. Cairo is kind of like an IDE that's very agentic and takes a lot of steps before starting writing code. And having some sort of chain of thought of having your AI reason like human and first prepare the specs, then code, then audit and review what has been coded, and then iterate and improve is the way to go for modern vibe coding, because you want to make sure you have a fail-safe system. And I've learned this through obviously my trainings online, but also with my experience as a product owner. Writing clean user stories, writing clean product requirement documents is necessary to steer the coder, whether it's human or AI, into the right direction. Now, once I've shown you that whole system, it's time to get started and vibe coding. So the first thing you're going to do is install Claude Code and subscribe to Claude. This is $20 a month. And if we go to Claude Code in here, all you have to do is install Claude Code with this command, npm install Anthropic Claude Code. Now, if you don't know what npm is or what a package manager is, I don't think this video is for you. It's the basics of software engineering, and obviously you need to learn about those parts first before you start vibe coding. So we're going to install this. And because I already have it installed, it's going to look like this in my own UI. Let's get back in here and I'm going to type Claude into the terminal. So what I'm actually going to show you in this video is building a nice component that I'm going to put in our automation page. And that component is something I found online called the animated beam from Magic UI. And I thought it was cool to kind of like show how we can help agencies and businesses automate their processes by putting like a make.com logo in here and having it being fed by different software icons in here, and just show some sort of workflow or diagram and having like maybe a bunch of tools, then make.com, then maybe ClickUp. So I thought it was cool to do something like that and show that in the homepage. So I'm going to show you where I'm going to put it. I'm actually putting it in the automation page, and I've prepared a placeholder for it. It's in here, visual placeholder, tools, integration flow, interactive diagram. Okay, so I want to put it in here and I want to use this component. Okay, so I want to do that. And to be honest, I started doing all of these feature requests using the folders, but then I turned that system into something into ClickUp. So because I know about ClickUp, I thought it would be cool to have some sort of Kanban board to track my project in here. Very simple board, as you can see, and request new features and have a agent into ClickUp just come here, and whenever the state is in progress, update this task name based on the task description and comments, and add instructions for Claude Code to perform the task. So instead of using these like old architecture markdown documents that I've shown you earlier, I've actually created a system for ClickUp to kind of be a product owner and create the specifications based on screenshot that I'm going to put in and some instructions. And I'm going to show you an example here. So we're working on that animated beam, right? And I've added the spot where I wanted to have it, and I've added the code of what it should be like. So obviously I've gotten the code from here. I've just copied and pasted what the code is like. It's in here. And back to ClickUp, you have here an AI agent that has taken the task and that has turned that into instructions. So please perform the following steps to complete the code task: remove the visual placeholder, integrate the animated beam component, insert the component in place of the removed, client-side rendering, make sure the file uses use client, directive, and code clean. Okay, so it's basically like instructing the Claude Code with a prompt that I can just copy and paste. And that's something I've done for a bunch of features. So each time I wanted to do something, I just added a simple text instructions in here, added an image, and then the ClickUp AI agent started creating instructions for my LLM. So I think this is pretty cool. And this is actually interesting because you could have that even for human work. You could have some like pre-framed user story, and then you could have a status change and have that ClickUp set an AI agent that would kind of rewrite the instructions for your developer or for an LLM to just have clearer specs to execute it. And this is exactly the kind of stuff I'm exploring for Upsys. Because as I told you, at Upsys, we help agencies and businesses set up ClickUp. But on top of that, I want us to be on the cutting edge of AI agents and leveraging AI for your day-to-day. So we want to create agents in and outside of ClickUp, leveraging LLMs to be able to speed up your workflows. So whether you're an agency or a software company, with our help, you can create agents that are going to either prepare specs for you, generate content for your social media, create analysis, create client briefs, create client documentation that can just copy and paste to your client workflows. So you're going to be able to really speed up your delivery thanks to our help and our knowledge of systems and our step back on your own operations. So if you're interested about how we can help you at Upsys, have a look at the link down in the description. It should be the old website if you're just seeing this video as it's published, but it might become that new website that I'm working on. And then on there, you can book a discovery call with us and we'll be happy to see how we can help you leverage automations and agents. Now, with that said, I'm going to use that system that we have built into ClickUp, combined with all the steering files and everything that we have, to have a super cool component being created by Claude Code. So let's get in here. I'm going to copy these instructions. I'll paste them here. And I'm also going to add this because this is actually useful code. I don't always add the code, but I'm going to click paste in here and it should pop up. Okay, it's a lot of lines. I don't usually add the code, but because the code has been like pre-made in here, we can just have it copy and paste it instead of like imagining new code, because I think this component looks really nice and really modern, and we can just add this existing component already. So I've added it in here, and all I have to do is click enter. And once I've clicked enter, what it's gonna do is gonna read that whole instruction, that whole prompt, and it's consuming tokens, as you can see here. So it's consuming from my hourly allowance of Claude Code. Then it's gonna create its own tasks. So as you can see, it's finding the visual placeholder, creating the new tools integration flow, replacing the visual placeholder with a new animated beam component, and testing the integration. Obviously, before that, I've already added a few things. I have a bunch of icons that we have in here. It's not just starting from scratch. I've prepared the project. We have some like make logo, some PNG of make.com in here. We have some HubSpot icons, some stuff like that we can use to showcase what we can do at Upsys, like integrating this software with that software, basically. And because I'm very visual, I'd rather have it create a first version and then iterate. And that's actually what Claude advises you. They tell you, just like humans, AIs are there to kind of like try, and you kind of steering them and creating a feedback loop that they can improve upon. And I've been building the website of Upsys very iteratively. So it was ugly in the beginning, AI did something very basic, and then it started to become nicer and nicer as time was going by, because I created some components, I told it to create some cool animations, use some specific fonts, and basically like have that whole system improve itself. So let's see, where is our progress? Okay, it's asking me to confirm that I want to do that. I'm gonna allow it to change my code, and it's coding in here. So it's adding my new tools integration flow component. That's already a good sign. Okay, I can see it's adding it here instead of the visual placeholder. So let's see how it's starting to look. Oh, I like that. So it's already looking good. I like that it has this cool UI, this cool beam effect. It's trying to see if it's working. Oh, it's not using the right ClickUp logo, and it's added some random stuff in here. So I'm going to be more specific and tell it to use some specific components, okay? What we can do first is tell it to use the new ClickUp logo for ClickUp. I'm going to have to find an icon for the ClickUp logo. Let me have a look online. ClickUp brand fetch. This is actually a tool where we have a bunch of brand icons. So let's take this one, and I'm just going to download it. Okay, so I've downloaded them. I'm going to paste them in here. We have our ClickUp logo, and I'm going to ask AI to use that logo for ClickUp. I'm going to copy the path, and then I'm going to say, for the ClickUp logo, use this one instead. I'm going to paste the path. So that's the ClickUp logo I need. And that's how I work with Claude. So I'm going to be iterative. As soon as it's done a task, I'm going to add some extra instructions, some refinement. And as you can see, it's found the new logo, and it said, okay, I've successfully updated the ClickUp logo in the tool integration flow. Great. Let's get back in here and see how it looks. I'm just refreshing the screen. Okay, so we have it here. We have the beam, we have the cool logo, and we have maybe the OpenAI logo in here. What if I do not want to have OpenAI in here, but instead I want to have a bunch of other apps? Let's see what we have in here. We have a Gmail, we have HubSpot, we have Make. Let me add some other ones. I'm going to think of examples of what we have set up for clients. We've set up Pipedrive for clients. I'm going to add an icon of Pipedrive. Okay, so let's actually use this one. We've integrated ClickUp with Airtable. So I'm going to add Airtable. Let me use this one. I like this one. Let's use Harvest. Okay, I like this one. So let's use those three. So what I want to do is maybe add ClickUp here to kind of highlight that it's important in what we do. And I like that there's Harvest, Pipedrive, and Gmail here, but maybe we can add like Zoho Books in here to talk about invoicing, and maybe HubSpot or another tool in here. And I think that would be already pretty cool. So I've added the QuickBooks here. So QuickBooks is the equivalent of Zoho Books, so it's fine. We've set that for client as well. So let's say replace the icon on the right side of analytics with QuickBooks. And then what we can do is maybe this one, and the automation close icon with Gmail and replace existing Gmail position with, and I'm adding the path as well. So what I'm saying is to basically like put Gmail in here because I think it makes more sense, like send email to clients, for example, automatically. And in here, it would be nice to just have like basically a CRM talking to your automation tool, maybe talking to AI. In terms of what we have set for clients, I know from experience that this is more realistic. It's adding Gmail. I like that. So you can see the changes and it's actually coding behind the scenes as we're talking. Okay, and it's added QuickBook as well. Perfect. So make sure the 3 steps to the left, join to ClickUp, ClickUp feeds make.com that then dispatches to the 3 apps. Okay, cool. So I've made sure that ClickUp is kind of big and centered in here because ClickUp is quite important in our business and just wanted to highlight it better. I think it would be cool to just have that appear in there. Let's see what it's doing. Okay, cool. It's just doing a bunch of stuff. That's why we're seeing some errors. But as you can see, I'm just prompting. And because the project is so organized, the instructions are so clear, it's got access to the steering documents that it doesn't make too many mistakes. It might happen that it does, but the project being quite easy, the project being a website, it should be able to write clean code. And then obviously, once I've done this feature, I'm gonna audit it and then I'm gonna ask to refactor it, clean it, optimize it. Same way as when you're cooking, really. Like you're cooking a new meal, you're gonna cook and then you're gonna clean your kitchen for a little bit and then you're gonna move on to the next step of the recipe. So make sure you have that philosophy with vibe coding as well. Constant cleaning of your board. Don't create mess, don't create spaghetti code, staying into the cooking metaphor. So it's done. Okay, cool. The different tools, ClickUp, make. Okay, then I don't like that. So I'm gonna say I don't need the ClickUp and make texts, just making sure it's removing the text. But I like that direction. I like what it's doing. Then I see we've lost centering. I'm gonna say we've lost horizontal centering of the ClickUp and make icons with the text being removed. So I'm explaining that the changes it did, it's created like some issues in here in the centering and it's just gonna fix it. Okay, should be done pretty soon. Okay, perfect. I like that. And I'm gonna say, I don't need background for the whole component. I wanna name it components, effects, post integration flow. Just put it flat on the web page. Okay, that way it's just going to remove that square. I don't think it's necessary. It would be nice that it's a bit more minimal. And I think we can remove that part. Remove that useless component in this web page. So I'm going to remove that part. And I think it just would be nicer to just have this go a little bit up and this like go a little bit up. And it will be like a more modern layout, I feel. Let's bring that up and remove that. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you to remove text in here. Tools can talk to each other. They just see the right introduction. I feel like that's cheesy. Okay, I like that. So add negative top and bottom margins to the component and goal, have it be closer to the text above and button below. In here, I'm asking it to basically just bring that up and just get closer to the text above, called using negative margins in CSS. So obviously this is another reason to know a little bit about the basics of coding. I know which direction to instruct it to go code-wise. So if you didn't know about that, you would talk in natural language and it might be messy or it might not understand the instructions. But by talking about negative margins, it obviously knows what I'm talking about and it should come up with something that works. So let's have a look. I'm gonna refresh it. It's not working, so it's not a matter of negative margin. Let me have a look at that. I'm gonna remove that padding first. Tools integration flow. I'm gonna look up for that padding 10. I'm gonna remove it. This just creates a bunch of useless space. And let me go even harder. Negative margin of 24. Okay, so it's starting to look better. So I've entered the code and actually changed things myself. So obviously you need those basics. You need to be able to like fine tune what AI does, because otherwise it can easily be messy. I don't want the overflow to be hidden, because if we do that, it's kind of like hiding our shadows. Cool. Okay, so I do like that design. See how we went from something that's pretty ugly to a pretty cool modern design, showing that we help companies connect their software to ClickUp and into ClickUp to other software. I like how it looks like. And now we have to actually do the work on the rest of the page to make it look modern. But through the help of AI, I'm building my new website for Upsits way, way faster. Obviously, this topic is very, very different from what I usually talk about. I'm mainly talking about systems and ClickUp, but this is kind of a way to showcase you how we leverage AI and our use of AI at Upsys, kind of a laboratory for our clients. Because doing this is not necessarily what we're going to do for you, but if you were to work with us, we can work with you on AI agents, for example. And knowing how to use AI, know about the different models, prompt properly, use ClickUp to create AI agents. All of this gives us the edge in terms of experience with building AI agents for businesses that wants to systemize their operations. So if you're interested about leveraging AI for your business, not in a code base, obviously, but for your own operations, creating content, using agents, have a look at the rest of my videos in this channel. I started to talk about AI agents, but most importantly, book a discovery call with us. We'll be happy to go through your needs and see at which stage you are in that kind of like progress. Are you ready for AI agents, or do we need to solve some things before? And then we'd be happy and would love to help you out, speed up your operations thanks to automation and AI. And I'll see you back with more videos, this time about ClickUp. This was just a way to show you what I'm building in public and how I'm leveraging AI to build software. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you next time. Until then, stay productive.